Yeah, this is also a pretty controversial story. Um, and it has about it, I think, if we step back from our own, excitement to think about this from within a Franciscan spirit, it has all the elements of a fable or a myth. And so, but the story as it's told, and it's actually only recorded long after both have been dead, which is another reason why people wonder, is it, somebody created this tale as a symbol of what their relationship was. But whether factual or not, the story is that Francis says, let us invite her here to share a meal because he wants to give her spirit the gift of some joy. And so the first thing people say is, well, she would not have left San Damiano. Well, the fact of the matter is she could leave San Damiano if she were helping another monastery. And there were other monasteries very close by where there is, at least in one instance, a record that she went to help found this monastery, because sisters from her monastery would go out to other houses of women to help them learn how to live this rule of life. So she very much could have been returning to Assisi from some trip. So then the idea is, that they would share a meal together, which, no reason to think that was an utter impossibility. She would have had her companions, he would have had his companions. But then you have this highly symbolic drama of they begin to exchange their experiences. It's a faith sharing on how they've experienced God's love in their lives and their calling. And suddenly people from around begin to show up because they say they've seen a great fire in the woods, and they've come thinking maybe, the little church is on fire and they're coming to save it. So that clearly has, really, it's a very miraculous kind of happening. I think it's an extraordinarily important story because on the first level, something like that very well could have happened. On the second level, did the woods catch fire? No, probably not. But over and over, those two had conversations that set their hearts on fire. And probably if anybody was present, and especially in the early years when Francis and Clare would meet, there would have been other sisters, other friars. Their hearts were probably on fire, and it's very much like the disciples on the road to Emmaus. Were not our hearts burning within us as he opened the scripture? So I think this is a testimony from someone who wants future generations to know that if you were ever with these two people, your heart would be burning. You would think, your surroundings were on fire with the love of God. And so we remember that story much more quickly than we'll remember, a long historical explanation of Francis and Clare working with the bishop. Very interesting, very not. But that story grabs us. And there are wonderful paintings of it and wonderful images of it. And so I think that it was meant to enshrine a memory of what we lost in the Garden of Eden. Francis and Clare create for us in the Garden of St. Mary of the Angels. It's a new Adam and a new Eve, giving the church a new reason to be encouraged and to keep on with its message of the gospel.